With John Janmaat, the Green Party candidate in the Kelowna-Lake country riding for the October 24th provincial election. John, welcome. And why politics? Why now?
I guess I've always been concerned with the health of our environment and climate change, and what we're hearing about collapsing ecology around the world has made me feel that it's important to really think of the long term and try to work towards solutions. And certainly the student activity last year really emphasized that too. And so I felt that it's important to have a voice in our legislature if possible, and certainly an opportunity for people to express their concerns in that area at the ballot box. So having a Green candidate on the ballot I think is important. And then right now it was asked that I participate in this way, and so I put my name forward.
Must be a different, I mean, you've never gone through the experience before, so it's new anyway, but doing it in the middle of a pandemic must be very interesting.
Yeah, I have helped out with a couple of campaigns in the past, and so things like door knocking. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I kind of like the fact that I don't have to door knock, but that would be how you normally reach out, and so that isn't there now. So figuring out other strategies, trying to be a 54-year-old guy on social media is kind of a challenge, but that's an avenue that's important.
I know some candidates are doing what they call reverse door knocking, where they're basically, going to a location and inviting people to come to see them. Are you doing that, or is it mainly social media?
We're going to be trying some of that. So there's going to be a couple of events at Kerry Park later this week, together with the other two Green candidates, and then a couple other places, Knox Mountain and Lake Country Coffee House. We plan to be at those a couple of times. I don't have the dates on the top of my head, but the schedule has been put out there. And in addition, we're going to be hosting some Zoom meet and greets as well, which will be an opportunity for a question and answer from anyone who might be interested, and that schedule has been put out as well.
Obviously, everything seems to come back to the pandemic, whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about education, the economy, etc. Can you talk about the government's response so far, and moving forward, if the Green Party is able to form government or again form an official opposition, things that you would like to see put in place to further the effort and the economy specifically?
Well, the idea that a lot of people have been talking about is what could be called simply building back better. So instead of trying to restore the economy the way it was before the pandemic, taking this as an opportunity to invest in sustainable and green technologies. So both for educating people to transition to these new jobs, as well as in investing in technologies that are more suitable to an economy that is moving and will move off of fossil fuels and towards sustainable energy, towards living more in harmony with nature. And so this is a great opportunity to do that. And I think that's one of the main things that the Green Party would work towards as part of or in government, if the opportunity is there.
Thinking outside the box and reinventing ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not only the Green Party that is promoting that. There are a number of influential agencies around the world that have been saying this, and economists, banks, people like Mark Carney, who was our central banker and who was with the Bank of England for a while and is still strongly pushing for building climate change into our institutions, into our financial institutions, to create those incentives to get us to move forward and change.
As a professor of economics at UBC Okanagan, that gives you a unique perspective on the economic conditions within the province.
Somewhat. I mean, my area of specialty is actually environmental and resource economics, so okay. I don't really look at macroeconomics that much. So I'm not quite the expert in that area, so I'm more on things like carbon taxes, for example. They are very effective tools. BC is a world leader in introducing them, and that's a kind of tool that is really good to support this kind of transition to an economy that moves off carbon, because we use pricing tools in order to encourage the kind of behavior we'd like to see and discourage that which we don't like to see. But the bigger macroeconomic levers are not my area of expertise.
Voters hate the words carbon tax.
Well, they do. They do, for sure. And it's unfortunate that this policy, which is very effective, has got such a political bad rap. To me, the party which most advocates responsible financial management, at least that's the mystique and the image you like to present, are typically, not so much here provincially, but generally against the carbon tax here in Canada. And that just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a political move. It's not a fiscal responsible move. Carbon taxes are the cheapest way to deal with fossil fuels, to get us off fossil fuels. The alternatives, which typically involve either government trying to get involved and invest in specific industries or some things like that, tend to be much more costly when you look at the overall impact on the economy than a carbon tax. The thing we got to deal with a carbon tax, though, is that it is regressive. It's a tax that lower income people pay a greater share of their income on. And so we got to build in supports for lower income people if we're going to use things like a carbon tax.
Climate change is obviously front and center for you. What should we be doing moving forward?
Well, getting ourselves off of fossil fuels and not subsidizing fossil fuels anymore is, I think, an important thing to do. And on top of that, we do have to make sure that the people who have invested their lives in these industries are able to get out and find new things to do. We can't just abandon them. So it's got to be a two-part thing. One is get out of the business of supporting the industry, and then secondly, get into the business more of retraining the workers so that they can move to other parts of the economy and helping with their transition. And it's one thing to retrain people, but it's another thing as well that people have built their lives in these towns in northern BC, for example, that are reliant on fossil fuels. And it's a big challenge to move. And that's their community, it's their friendships, it's their relationships. Like, how do we help people to move out of that? And the other thing the Green Party has talked about is putting mental health more into the health system overall. And I think that's probably an important thing. I mean, people are going to need maybe some consultation with psychologists and other such things to help with potential depression and other issues that come about with these transitions. And we've got to be there for people. We've got to help the people to adapt to this change in the economy.
John, I want to give you a chance to look straight in the camera, look at the voters of Kelowna-Lake country, and give them your best pitch as to why on October 24th they should mark an X beside your name.
Well, if, like me, you're concerned about climate change and concerned about the environment we live in, and if you want to make sure that everybody comes along as we transition to a new economy, my name is on the ballot to provide that signal to everybody in government that it's important to you.
John Janmaat, BC Green Party candidate, Kelowna-Lake country, the October 24th election. John, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.